On December 4th, 1972, Stephen was kidnapped just a few blocks from his home in Merced, California. Kenneth Parnell, who kidnapped Stephen, insisted on giving him a ride home while posing as someone who was collecting donations for a church. Was Stephen found? What happened to him? Let's dive into the story behind the kidnapping of Stephen Stainer.
A lot of people have their thoughts about my family, and I think they have it wrong.
You would definitely think something like this is made up.
This is a case that shocked the nation.
Stainer, then 7 years old, was kidnapped by child molester Kenneth Parnell on December 4th, 1972, in Merced, California. At the age of 14, he and another of Parnell's victims, Timothy White, escaped from their captor's compound in Mendocino County, California, from which they had been kept for 38 miles. Irvin Edward Murphy, who had met convicted child rapist Kenneth Parnell through their shared employment at a resort in Yosemite National Park, accosted Stainer on his way home from school on the afternoon of December 4th, 1972. Murphy, whom people close to him described as trusting, naive, and simple-minded, was recruited by Parnell, who posed as an aspiring minister to Murphy to assist in the kidnapping of a young boy so that Parnell could raise him in a religious-type deal, as Murphy put it. After noticing Stainer on the way home from school that day, Murphy followed Parnell's orders and pretended to be a church official passing out donation requests in exchange for gospel pamphlets to the lads who were heading home from school. Stainer said that Murphy had inquired whether his mother could give anything to the church. After learning that she would, Murphy approached Stainer and politely requested if she may visit him at his house. Stainer readily got in the passenger seat of Parnell's white Buick and followed Murphy off after he had promised. The confused Stainer was then driven by Parnell to his cottage in Cathy's Valley, which was about several hundred feet away from Stainer's maternal grandfather's house. On their very first night together, Parnell sexually assaulted Stainer. On December 17, 1972, 13 days after they first met, Parnell began raping Stainer. After Stainer repeatedly expressed his desire to return home during the first week, Parnell informed him that he had been granted legal custody of the boy because his parents could not afford so many children and no longer wanted him. Parnell enrolled Stainer in a number of different schools over the next few years. Parnell pretended to be Stainer's biological father and took him on numerous trips to different parts of California, including Santa Rosa and Campeche. Stainer was able to start drinking early on thanks to Parnell, and he was also given free rein to come and go as he pleased. Stainer, now an adult, reflects on how Parnell hopped around from one low-paying job to another, sometimes going away on business and leaving him unprotected, and how he missed opportunities to escape if he'd known how to call for backup. Stainer's life with Parnell was largely negative, but the gift of a Manchester Terrier he named Queenie from Parnell was a bright spot. Queenie was a dog that Parnell's mom had given him, but she didn't know about Stainer while he was in Parnell's custody. Barbara Mathias was the house guest of Parnell and Stainer for a total of 18 months. According to Stainer, Mathias and Parnell raped him 9 times when he was 9 years old. Parnell started looking for a younger child to kidnap when Stainer hit puberty. Parnell had previously attempted kidnappings with the help of Stainer, but each time he had failed. This led Parnell to conclude that Stainer lacked the resources necessary to be an accomplice. Stainer eventually admitted that he was responsible for sabotaging these aborted kidnapping attempts. Parnell and Stainer's adolescent companion Randall Sean Poorman abducted Timmy White, then 5, from Ukiah on February 14, 1980. Stainer was moved in part by the child's distress before making the decision to give him back to his parents. Stainer went with White and hitchhiked into Ukiah on March 1, 1980, while Parnell was working as a night security guard. When they still couldn't find White's house, they decided to see the authorities. Parnell was taken into custody early on the morning of March 2, 1980, on suspicion of kidnapping both boys. The investigation by the police revealed a sodomy conviction from 1951. That day, both kids got to see their parents again. Parnell had 2 trials for the kidnapping of White and Stainer in 1981, both of which resulted in his conviction. He received a 7-year sentence but was released after only 5 years. Most of Parnell's sexual assaults against Stainer and other boys happened outside of the jurisdiction of the Merced County prosecutor, or the statute of limitations had passed. The district attorney's office in Mendocino County made the unilateral decision not to press charges against Parnell in connection with the sexual assaults that took place there. Murphy was found guilty of aiding in the kidnapping of Stainer, and Poorman was found guilty of aiding in the kidnapping of White. Both parties denied any familiarity with Stainer's sexual assaults. In the end, Matthias avoided getting arrested. Stainer recalled Uncle Murphy's generosity toward him during the first week of imprisonment, when they were both susceptible to Parnell's deception, and he came to feel that Murphy was just as much a victim of Parnell as he and Timmy. As a result of the publicity surrounding Stainer's kidnapping, California lawmakers amended the state's penal code to permit consecutive sentences for offenders convicted of abduction. Stainer had problems readjusting to his family's more regulated environment after living with Parnell, where he was free to smoke, drink, and do as he liked. Stainer told Newsweek that his parents still treated him like a child, even though he was nearly an adult when he went home following his escape. While Stainer did receive some brief counseling, he never pursued further treatment. He also concealed the full extent of the sexual abuse he suffered at the hands of Parnell. For example, Stainer's father reportedly told his sister in an interview in 2007 that her brother didn't need any therapy. Therefore, Stainer never went to visit a counselor. In addition, she said, he got on with his life, but he was pretty messed up. He went back to school, where people were always interested in him. Some kids made fun of him for being abused after more information about his experience came to light. He occasionally shown a spooky lack of concern for what had occurred to him and even started making jokes about it. His sister Corey Stainer told the St. Louis Post-Dispatch that he got on with his life, but he was seriously damaged, and he never sought counseling. My father stated he didn't require any. He returned different, extremely different, Kay claimed in an interview, according to CNN. Additionally, it took us some time to adjust to having him home. In 1983, Stephen was interviewed by GMA, and he recalled his first year back as being sort of stressful. I've been apparently an only kid for 7 years. I was up against my brother and 3 sisters now. After Stainer's drinking got out of hand, his parents kicked him out. The tension in his connection with his father persisted. Stainer wed a teenage Jody Edmondson in 1985, and the couple eventually produced 2 children together, a girl named Ashley and a son named Stephen Jr. In addition to his work with anti-child abduction organizations, he also gave interviews about his abduction and spoke to children about personal safety. Just before he passed away, he converted to the Latter-day Saint faith. Stainer was a Merced resident and pizza delivery driver when he passed away. Stainer was riding his motorbike home from work on September 16, 1989, when he was struck by a car and fatally injured. The driver of the automobile fled the scene. A witness later identified the alleged automobile driver. Over 500 mourners gathered to pay their respects, including 14-year-old pallbearer Timmy White. The arrest of Parnell. In June 1981, Parnell was found guilty of kidnapping Timmy. Stephen told the Evening News he was glad about the decision and hadn't been overly concerned about the subsequent trial, where he would be required to testify. He wasn't charged with child sex abuse or any other molestation-related offenses in either case, but Parnell was later found guilty of stealing Stephen as well, and he was given a 7-year jail sentence. Irvin Murphy, who assisted in the kidnapping of Stephen but said in Eccles' book that he truly believed Parnell was a pastor and had never intended to harm a young boy, was also found guilty of kidnapping and conspiracy to kidnap and received a 5-year sentence that he served for 2 years. Poorman, who had known Dennis, the boy he mistakenly believed to be Parnell's son, as a friend, was found guilty of kidnapping Timothy White while still a minor and sentenced to time in a juvenile detention center. Parnell, who was serving a 25 years to life sentence for soliciting others to commit crimes, attempting to buy a human being, and attempted child theft, passed away in jail in 2008 at the age of 76. He had offered to pay $500 to have a 4-year-old kid delivered to his Berkeley home when he requested his home health aide for assistance in finding one. Make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to this channel for more.